Hi, ladies.
Hello.
Hi, Dana.
How are you? Hi, Marianne. Hi, Amal.
Hi, Dana. How are you?
I'm good.
Can't believe it. This is the last one.
How did that happen?
مش عارفة يعني where did the time
Oh,
go?
6 months. My God.
Time flies.
Time flies. So much has happened in 6 months.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
we have a very good leader.
Oh, thank you. Amazing. Hi, Besma.
I am a bit frustrated
Why is that?
because I wanted to make payments from my Egyptian e-banking and I forgot my password. So I found them in Egypt. I found the hotline and then they said, yeah, they see an Egyptian number, although I'm phoning from a Swiss number.
Oh,
And they can't do anything for me unless I phone from the number which they have in the system. And that one is my Swiss number. So I don't know what I can do.
You don't have roaming on the Egyptian number?
yeah.
No, the thing is, my e-banking contract has my Swiss number on it. And if they don't see the number, then they can't help me with my e-banking issues.
So the e-banking in Egypt has the Swiss or the Egyptian number?
Yes, no, it has the Swiss number.
And you're calling from the Swiss number, so what's their problem?
The problem is that they don't see my Swiss number. They see an Egyptian number instead.
So maybe you're calling through some kind of a card or something. You're not
No,
calling international?
no, I am calling international. Well,
Ah,
anyway, I will speak with the Swiss company here and see if they change something or
yeah,
if it is something they change on the Egyptian side. We'll see.
that's it. Best of luck.
We
Thank you.
always, everybody always seems to encounter some kind of banking issue in this country. On some level or another, whether you're in the country or outside of the country, it
Exactly.
can never be straightforward.
I mean, it it was working perfectly a month ago,
Well,
but
that's
anyway,
the surprises. We live for the surprises here.
it is.
Hi, Delia. Welcome, ladies. It is our
Hi, Dana. Hi, ladies.
hi. How are you? Um,
I'm good.
Good. It is our last session. We were just saying we don't know how or why we ended up at the last session seemingly so quickly, but here we are. So today is a celebration of completion. Of course, we're also going to speak about I saw Ramallah. Um, so let's just get right into it. I I didn't intend for this book to be our last book. It ended up being our last book because of because we cut down the list. But how perfect is it that this ended up being our last book? I feel like it's just the for so many reasons the perfect book for us to end on, and it's just falling on such with such perfect timing, I believe. I knew that in the 6 months we had to read something about Palestine. Um, and it just got pushed to today just because we chopped the list down. It was going to be somewhere in the middle before. So let's just get right down into it. I've never read this book before. It was my first time. And this is our this is the it's not the first nonfiction book. So the other nonfiction books that we read were, Think and Grow Rich and Feminine Genius. But this is the first truly nonfiction book on our list. It's basically an autobiography of types. Um, he doesn't write about his full life, through childhood, but he does write about one particular event in his life. So it is very much autobiographical. And part of the one of the main reasons that I wanted to do a book club was for us to get out of using sort of self-help books and guides to sort of help us figure out our lives or to give us insight into our lives or to show us a way of living or a way of not living or how to be or how not to be, but to do it through the perspective of literature, whether that's fictional or non-fictional characters. All literature and all stories are based on life. They're based on, human nature. They're based on shared human experience. So with all the books that we've read, they're all fictional. They're, made up stories. So you can, to a great extent, your perception of the events, your perception of the characters, you get to have whatever kind of experience you want, really. And you get to take from those characters and from those stories however much or however little you feel you need, maybe nothing, to maybe clarify something that's happening in your own life, showcase something that's happening with you, help you figure something out from a different perspective. But I felt like with this one, because it is his perception of this particular event, I can't really create my own perception of it. It was more of I'm just along for the ride.
Yeah.
I'm just along for the emotions. I'm just there to participate in his experience, and more so than the other pieces of literature where I was sort of, maybe hopping in and out, like taking this and then reading this from a distance and not really needing anything from it, coming back to another passage. This book just took me I was just along for, I was passive, let's put it that way. I was passive, not active in this book. I was completely passive and just, I want to be there for how you experience this because there's no way I'm ever going to experience this. Everything else theoretically in the other books, even if they're written in different, you're never going to go back to the 1800s or the 1700s or Cairo in 1922, but human nature is human nature, and you can be active in that. You can relate to a character, you can decide to, I really appreciate the strengths of this character. I really appreciate how they behaved or reacted in this situation. I can relate it to something in my life. But with this, what are the chances any of us are ever going to go through this journey? So it was a very, very passive journey for me, not in a negative way at all, completely taken by his experience, and the only book that made me cry out of all the books that we've read, for sure. Um, who has a first impression that they would like to share?
I can.
Please.
So this is the first book I read through the front. I mean, I read half of it. I didn't finish the book. I read half of it.
Okay.
A lot of his analysis when he was, I mean, there was two ways of his writing. Part of it was his telling the story and reflecting back on his experience with it, and then putting these statements of expressing how he's analyzing it.
Yeah.
So, for example, when he was saying about his little city that it's as is, did not change, he wishes that it just woke up and moved and went forward. Another time he was talking about how people look at him and how he looks at people and all these differences. I mean, all of these things just lit a bulb for me because sort of I did experience all of that.
Mm.
And I mean, our experiences are different, but I moved out of Egypt when I was 25. And since then, it's like for the last 30 years, I've been in, out, all over the place. So his feeling of hijra and his feeling of displacement and not feeling home and people have changed. And I mean, I've experienced it without being displaced from my country, but still when I come back, the country is different and the people are different, and all these differences that he is experiencing because of the situation of Palestine
Yeah.
it happens with other people as well.
Yeah. Definitely anybody. And I mean, I think, okay, Emel, I mean, Delia's in the UK, Mariana's in Switzerland, Basma's in the US. Omneya, I know you had some time also when you were in Egypt. I think anybody who lives outside of Egypt and does the regular coming home, on a yearly basis is going to experience some of this, of coming home and feeling something's different, something's changed, maybe not belonging, the mixture, like love-hate relationship, you wish you could be there, but you can't wait to leave. You can't wait to come back, and then you're ready to leave when it's over. Definitely. I think that one's a universal one for sure. Yeah. I think Marianne, you had spoken once about that.
Yes, because
Yeah.
a bit like Amal, I left Egypt. I was, well, after university, maybe 27, 28, and I'm here for over 30 years, well, 40 years. um, and I mean, I go once or twice a year to Egypt to visit family and friends, but each time uh, I have this, how do you say, Hennaya
Mm.
to the times when uh, when I was in the 20s. You know how people were so kind, so helpful. They always said good morning, and the families came together, or the family came together, and it was another atmosphere. And every time I go back, I still have this حنية
Mm.
to the old times. And then, I mean, everything has changed. The culture has changed, the language, the people, the habits, the values. I find it a bit, it's worrisome the uh, that the people don't have the same values as we used to at the time. يعني كل واحد بدراعه, and I don't know. Uh, it's different. And regarding the book, I can feel with him. I mean, he wasn't there since 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean, he did not go often to see the country and so on. I feel for him as well as for all the other Palestinians. I mean, we see them here in Switzerland. Of course, they want to go back, but how? I mean, in Gaza, everything is not there anymore. In the West Bank, it's upside down, and so I feel with him, but maybe not so strong as he did. I mean, he was away 30 years. And what impressed me is this moments he had on the bridge. Can he go in or not, or will he stay outside? And so slowly, as he steps on the bridge, the thoughts which came to him. It made me sad. Well, I did not cry, but it made me sad because what happens in the future? I mean, he wrote the book, he was 30 years away, but the problem is still ongoing. And all those people who are everywhere in the world, um, yeah, it makes me think, even how is it going to be solved, or will it be solved at the end? And there he had this anecdote when they all met. They were traveling from, I don't know, I think from France to Geneva for a conference,
Mm.
and they presented so many different passports,
Yeah.
and they all had the same family name. So it's one family, but they are all over the place. It reminded me a bit when I went to Germany for the first time after I came here, and I had my Egyptian passport, and I had the visa stamp on it. And then I remember quite well the officer who is the immigrations officer. He did not know how to deal with the passport. Is it now from right to left, or is it from left to right? And I was a bit ashamed because there was a long queue behind me. Everyone wanted to enter, and then at the end, yeah, it went well. But still, I mean, I feel for the Palestinians, and yeah, I can imagine when he went there, then he wanted to see the house where he was born, and the school, university, the places they went to go, they used to go. Yeah, and then he left. The question is, will he take his son with him, or will his son be able to see what he has sown, what he saw? Yeah, it's a good book, and it made me thoughtful.
Yeah. We have as much as, anybody who lives outside of Egypt and comes back and then leaves, you have that option. You have the freedom and the luxury to say whether you want to come back or not. And you can come back and you can leave and then decide to come back again. He didn't know if this was going to be his first and last visit after the 30 years or not, or if he was going to be able to bring his son again or not. I don't know how, if we can just picture that for a moment. Imagine all of you living abroad, coming home and not knowing if they're going to let you in, first of all. And then if you're going to be able to come back, this is going to be your last visit. And if you leave, will you be able to ever come back again or not?
Yeah, I
Yes.
could relate. Sorry, go
Sorry.
ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Omni.
Thank you. No, I could relate to what you were just saying, Dana, and to the book because yeah, I lived in Saudi when I was young with my parents, and then after university I moved to Dubai and I worked 3 years. So every time I used to come back to Cairo for a holiday, I was like looking forward to going back to Saudi or going back to Dubai, and I used to call it home.
Yes.
And when I moved back, it was really difficult to call Egypt home. It's still home, of course, and
Yeah.
we belong and everything, but you feel like there's something missing. And I think now I got used to it because I've been back for 10 years. But before that, it was really challenging because I used to compare everything and I used to compare the lifestyle, friends, work, everything. And it was really difficult to adapt, especially like because everything changed in Egypt, the culture, the people, even the small things. And of course, we shouldn't be the ones who complain. But again, unfortunately, we used to complain, sorry, to compare. So it was really difficult to call Egypt home. And I always said, like, I want to go back. I just want to go back. As for the book, I actually had a friend of mine who's Palestinian, and his family used to live or they still live in Ramallah. So he used to tell me about this journey, exactly the same one as in the book.
Yeah.
So he used to do this. He used to go to Amman, take the bus, go to Ramallah, and he used to tell me about the checkpoints that he has to go through, all the humiliation he went through. He has some family in Gaza, other family members in Ramallah, people in living in Greece, others in Cairo. So I could feel what the writer was saying and like his story because I know someone who actually lived this and continues to live this every single year when he goes and visits his family in Ramallah.
Yeah.
It was really touching, to be honest, especially that, as most of you have said, it's because of we're watching the news, of course, about Gaza. We know that the Palestinian issue did not start a couple of years ago. It started years and years back, but because now it's really intense. So I think I was really touched by the book, and I really enjoyed reading it. And honestly, it's really difficult to see that this book was written years ago and it's still happening. The same thing is happening. Nothing have changed, but unfortunately, it got worse.
Yeah. Yeah, his depiction of the bridge crossing is incredibly accurate. Like you, Omneya, I was born and lived in Saudi Arabia until I was 21, and all of my childhood friends the majority of them were all Palestinian who used to go back every summer, whenever it is they used to go back. And these were like my family, not just friends. And that depiction, his depiction of that process is exactly how I imagined it in my mind when my friends used to describe it to me. It's brilliantly done. Um, and yeah, you're right. It hasn't changed at all up until today. Um, the process of being on the Brit, I mean, obviously, I'm not Palestinian, but as a Lebanese, when coming into Egypt in the 70s and the 80s and up until 1991, you guys might not believe this. We used to get stopped even though my mother's Egyptian, my father's Lebanese, and we all had Lebanese passports. They used to keep us in Cairo airport up until 1991. That was my last experience. Every time we enter Egypt, they used to take our passports aside and keep us waiting for 3 hours just because we were Lebanese, because at the time, the Lebanese Civil War and there was issues with Lebanon. And every single time, as a child, you don't know. I remember every single time wondering, are they going to let us in? Are they going to let us in? And there was no apparent reason for holding us back. You know, we're a family. My father was a doctor. We're kids, and my mom. It was just you're Lebanese. We have issues with the Lebanese for 2 decades. And I'll never forget up until today that feeling of being set aside, having somebody have the power really to decide for you. And it didn't make any sense to me that this happened every single time. Every single time, every 6 months, we'd come back to Cairo, land in the airport, get ushered aside, wait for 3 hours, and then they just give you your passport and say you can go. So we also do it to each other, right? We also do it in terms of, the Arab countries and things like that. It's something that it's like we haven't learned. It's like we have an occupier do it to you, but then as technically Arab countries within each other, we also do it to each other. It doesn't happen anymore, fortunately, but this happened for like my entire life growing up and coming to Egypt every single time. So it's very, very, when you read his depiction of that, everything about this book, even though none of us have an exact, and we'll probably will never have an exact personal experience of going back to a homeland that has been taken away from you. I don't know. I wish this guy was still alive. I would have loved, loved, loved to be able to ask him some questions today about what's happening. But unfortunately, he's passed away. Who else would like to share their impressions, similar experiences? Delia, I think you wanted to say something.
Yes. So I liked when he said, "What is home?" I can't remember where exactly, but he
Mm.
was kind of describing home
Yeah.
because this book touched me as well, and I cried as well. And because of, I mean, some parts because I felt the same way
Yeah.
being abroad, and others because he's going through all this, all the rejection. I think for us, at least, we know we have the choice,
Yeah.
but being rejected
Yeah.
and not having any control over it, it's hard. So when he said, "What's home?" it made me really think, is it the places, the people, the culture? Because the places change. So we used to live in Muhandisin, now my parents live in Sheikh Zayed. So I mean, even the places that we grew up in, it
Yes.
does change. The people, they change, even though you have still close relationships or the connections, but they do change, and sometimes you don't recognize them anymore, you know? Uh, and you change as well.
Yeah.
And when you're apart for a long time, you can see it clearly. Maybe if you're in each other's daily life, you wouldn't recognize it that clearly.
Yeah.
Also, his attachment to the plants. So he was trying to be attached to one thing just to give him stability
Rooted,
and,
rooted somewhere.
yes, to
Yes.
be grounded.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. That, but actually, thank you so much for suggesting this. I would have never picked this book myself, to be honest. But living this experience through him, I've always known that Palestinians are struggling and it's hard and it's tough on them, but putting it in this way, they're in everywhere in the world, struggling. And when he was saying, when the telephone rings, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
That was tough.
Yeah. 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 He's brilliant in depicting that, depicting uh the distance, depicting the way they had to communicate. Um, and this is because it's not a news story. It's not somebody like telling a documentary per se. Like it's really somebody's such a human his real life experience of this. So you can't really doubt it. You can't really, maybe some feelings might be exaggerated, some feelings might be downplayed, but you can't read this and say, oh, this is not correct, or let me fact check this. You know, this is a very, very personal account of a very, very, um, very difficult experience. It's about his return to Ramallah, but like you said, it encompasses their whole story. It's a slice of their history and a slice of their present and a slice of their collective consciousness when it comes to being displaced and when it comes to rejection. He did it brilliantly all in one book that's technically just about a snapshot of what how long he was there, 2 weeks, a few weeks, but in those 2 weeks you get the entire spectrum of what the Palestinians have been experiencing since 1948. And what I also loved about him, I don't know if you guys got this impression also. You don't feel like this is a man who, despite you feel there is obviously bitterness, but you don't feel like there's revenge there. You don't feel like he's out to get revenge. You don't feel like there's this destructive anger. It's all very he mixes it all together. Like you feel his bitterness, you feel his sadness, you feel his hopefulness, but despite what has happened to him and his people, you don't feel this overwhelming it's like he doesn't have a bad bone in his body despite everything that's happened to him, which is remarkable. Did anybody get that impression also?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And I looked him up as well, and he died 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I actually wanted to look his son up
Mm.
because it's very interesting, that he wanted to pass all this to his son. But again, it's a different experience. It's a totally different experience. Actually, we are experiencing this now. It's like, I want them to go back for the sense of belonging and the warmth and everything. But is it the same way? Is it the same as it's in my head? The sense of
I mean,
belonging?
I'm very, very angry. I'm like, like you don't feel he has that, you know? And maybe
Yes,
that's the better way to be
yes.
as a
He
human,
was in peace. I
as a
think he had
human,
the inner
right?
peace.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was not only removed from Palestine, from Egypt as well.
Yes, yes. Yeah. And his son, I did look up his son. His son is also a poet and also an activist currently.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else would like to share their thoughts on this book?
I would like to just say something. This book
Yeah.
made me think of when I used to live in East Germany when I was younger.
Hmm.
So I was there when the wall went down,
Hmm.
and you could see that also, the people being tortured between what they know and what they didn't know and what they thought it was like. And so I'm just imagining like the people living in Palestine or the people that were taken out of their homes and all that. how they must be feeling. And I have a lot of Palestinian friends as well. And to your point, like a lot of them, like I think I'm more angry than they are,
Mm.
you know? Like my rage sometimes is like, and then they would calm me down.
Yeah.
But I don't know why, like I've also brought up this East Germany thing because it made me think of the people like also being that they've been displaced somehow, right? They've been alienated from their families. There were families living in the West, and there were families living, part of the other families living in the East, and they would stand behind the Brandenburg Gate and wave at each other. And they were not allowed, the families from the West were allowed to cross to the East, but the East were not allowed to cross to the West. So
Mm.
that while I was reading the book, I mean, I didn't get to finish it, I have to say,
Yeah.
because I found it like we're living this right now, and it's making it hard as well on the soul to accept certain things, right? And to accept that we're sitting here in silence and not being able to do anything about it, and that we've been living in this since 1948, and no one like took a stand somewhere somehow, you know. And to your point, us Arabs were doing this to ourselves as well, amongst us,
Yes.
you know. So but when the comparison here between the East German and the Palestinian was they too, they had anger, but it wasn't like obvious to you.
Mm.
Like I don't know if it's part of you know, a mentality of the people that are just like being suppressed. This is the way they act. I have no idea, because I remember our neighbor from East Berlin, she knows that every day I cross the borders and she can't, and she has her nephew in West Berlin. So she sometimes would give us stuff to give it to her nephew, or she would ask from us to bring stuff from the West to the East,
Mm.
you know? And it's the same kind of dynamic between, well, not the same, because this is even more, Palestine is even more, because no one can go in and out like they please, or you can't even bring stuff from outside to inside. And we're seeing it right now. People are starving,
Yes.
right? We can't even bring them food inside. The book is a great choice. It's a great choice. It's a great ending, actually, because it's very linked to our reality right now.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, what are we doing as individuals? What are we doing as societies? How can we as women relate emotionally to stuff that is happening over there right now? You know, I volunteer a lot for people that need help around here in Canada. We try to send stuff, but it gets stuck somewhere.
Mm.
Like it's not reaching them. So yeah, that's my intervention. I don't know. I mean, all like my thoughts when I started reading it were all over the place, and the one thought that came to mind was that East and West Germany. One, because I used to live there and I saw the unfairness with my own eyes. And it made me sort of relate to as well what he was saying. And because also I have a lot of Palestinian friends around me, and I'm quite active in القضية الفلسطينية and everything. And I see it. And like I'm telling you, like to your point, I'm more angry than they are for some reason. They're still angry, but that rage is not there.
Mm. Mm.
It's some sort of self-control, I guess.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's written in page 102. What is needed here is slowness. The vibration of the past will take their time until they calm down and find a form in which to rest. This needs the slowness of a magician. So I think this is how they
That's
take it.
amazing, Delia. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
And there's also slowness teaches us how to accept the new, to regard it as natural and that way, and the way things have always been.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in every aspect of life in general. When you take things slowly,
Yes.
it becomes natural.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And all, I just want to answer or reflect maybe about the question of why they don't have rage as much as others. I think as well is it's the grief. I think when grief is always recurrent because they're losing every day either relatives or extended family or houses or what have you. I think when it's recurrent, you usually reach a level of saturation where there isn't much to express.
They're numb potentially.
Yes,
Mm.
yes, that's an explanation.
Or it's just a coping. It's a way of coping.
Definitely a way of protecting yourself because you don't want to be exposed to more of that.
Can I add something also in page 170?
Yeah.
He said, applauding ourselves is not viable response to what has happened to us, and it does not help us to understand it.
Mm.
So maybe grasping the whole picture, I mean, maybe they're stuck in just a small piece of the puzzle. I don't know. This is how I took it as well. They don't want to think about the whole picture. Maybe just thinking about the I cannot go right now. They're
Mm.
taking it, they're making it into small chunks.
Yeah. Whatever they can, what's manageable.
Yes.
There was also, see if I can find it, a passage about joy. I don't know if any of you noticed that one. Yeah. It was right before the page about slowness. On 101 in my book. It says you do not rejoice. So even when things go their way, you do not rejoice immediately when life presses a button that turns the wheel of events in your favor. You do not arrive unchanged at the moment of joy dreamt of for so long across the years. The years are on your shoulders. They do their slow work without ringing any bells for you. Again, this is a general life lesson, right? And we were talking about joy the past few weeks. It's something that has to arrive slowly. It's something that can sort of creep up on you. And when it does, it doesn't automatically erase all the non-joy you've had up until that point. It's all there. It's still there. You carry it with you. You feel the joy while at the same time still carrying the load and perhaps experiencing the moments of sadness and despair that got you up until that point of joy.
There's something irrelevant, but I liked how he supported his wife, supported her decisions. I think that was like in the 70s, he said,
Yeah.
um, uh, going to finish her PhD. I think he was very strong because at that time this was not very common.
Yeah. Yeah, you felt like they had a very more of a modern day relationship than a relationship that began in
Exactly. It was free from all the
Yeah.
restrictions
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all the must-dos.
Yes. Anybody else want to share their reactions to the book? How they feel about the book, about the character, about the situation? If you got,
There's just the last question.
yeah,
Sorry,
go
the
ahead.
last
No, no.
question, the last page. It's
Oh,
what describes the spirit of its colors. So I like this one. I think we can think about it
I
because it's so many things.
yes. Has everybody gotten to the end, to the last page? Has everybody finished the book? I know Basma said she hasn't, I think. Nirmin? Marianne has, yes. Amal, no. Yeah, on the very, very, very last page. But I mean, it's not, now that I think about it, you don't actually have to have finished the book to think about this. He finishes the book with another, potentially he doesn't really state if this is a line of his own poetry, but it might be of something that he wrote. He says, "What deprives the spirit of its colors? What is it other than the bullets of the invaders that have hit the body?" So what deprives your soul of what brings it alive? You know, what deprives the soul of life? What deprives you of being the best version of you, whatever that means for you? And that could be, he's saying, what is it? He knows he's answering the question. He's like, what is it? You know, other than, so it is the bullets of the invaders that have hit your body. So whether that's you losing, not having love, not having companionship, not having a homeland, not having passion, not having health, not having something that you love to do, not having safety. Those are the bullets that hit your body. These are the invaders that hit your body. So he's answering his own question, basically. He's saying, what gets in the way of your soul living in full expression, because colors are expressions. What gets in the way of you living in full expression? But it is, how did you see it, Delia?
No, I understood it that way as well,
Yeah.
but I tried to separate it. I took the question on its own.
Yeah.
And probably the answer is all the topics that we've been covering.
Yeah.
So relationships, health, all the things that we've been covering.
Yeah. It's when you don't have, I mean, we call these, the primary foods, things that feed your soul. And when your soul is not free to sing and fly and express itself, it's because there's some kind of imbalance or deficiency happening in those things that feed your soul. And just look, this is where the universality of it all comes in. He brings it all together at the end, even though he's talking about something, such a singular experience, which is being displaced from Palestine. At the end, he brings it all together to a universal experience, which is his bullets are, the actual physical, Israel taking over his country. That's the actual one. But for everybody else in the world, if you haven't experienced something like that, you still have something that is an invader, something that is taking over you, taking over your soul, taking over your experience of life.
And sometimes it's actually us doing it to ourselves.
Yes.
Like, he was talking about something when he was reading his poems in the square, and then he said it might have been a happy and a beautiful memory, except for that thought, that harsh one that came in and stole that moment from him. So he did it to himself. Sometimes we do it as well.
We do it with our thoughts all the time. We believe all the thoughts.
Even if he doesn't believe it, I mean, like it was there and he heard it, even if he doesn't necessarily believe it, but it ruined the moment for him.
Interrupted it, invaded it.
Yeah.
I can share if no one.
Yes, please.
I'm only halfway through.
Okay.
And honestly, it's not because I didn't have time to finish it, but it was very heavy on my heart that I read. So I kept putting it aside. Like I usually do my readings in the morning. I wake up early and I go for a walk, and then I take the book and I sit and read somewhere. I felt it, I felt it hard. It wasn't easy for me to run through the pages. I'm not into politics, and I don't follow anything, and I don't even open the news. I know things when friends tell me, or something on Facebook or stuff like that, which is something I have decided since the Thawra in Egypt, because I was actually away from Egypt at that time, and everything was happening there, and it was really stressful. Which now, after reading this, it seems like it was a walk in a park after what those people are passing through. So that's very it's an eye opener, because I didn't even know some political incidents that he mentioned. Uh, about Abdel Nasser, or stuff like that. So it's very interesting. Halfway through, there's a couple of things that really touched me. One of them is when he was talking about his mother and his brother that passed. I didn't know till now how he passed, because he described in the first half that he passed, and it seemed like this was something overwhelming for him. But this incident of his brother not being able for some reason to cross, and apparently at that incident that the mother crossed but the brother didn't cross, and the mother was begging them to for them to be together, like this is uh, inhumane by any means. And then the fact that there are no answers and there is silence, like it's just up to this person at this borders or what have you, or this bridge to decide, or what's the criteria, you know. It's like when you're applying for visas. what what's the criteria? Why would you accept, or why would you reject people to go back to their places? But just picturing this scene of a mother and the son, and both of them are going different ways. It's wrenching. And the other thing is, which I felt it was very smart how he put it, is that when he managed to go there and then he started to visit all the places he's been to, and the school and the streets, and then he says something to the effect of that he sees everything was beautiful, but because they're not there anymore, and he is sure that there were things that were bothering him, or these things were not as perfect, but because they're not there anymore, they're all things that he misses, and he only sees the good things in that. He seems like a very romantic person, really. I felt that he's such a romantic person, that, and again, like you said, in there is no bitterness. It's sad, but there is no bitterness. There is nothing, like, is not mentioning the enemy by anything, or that we need to retaliate, or we need to do this, or we need to do that. It just it's he's romantic, he's kind, and he's just being and he's full of grief, and all the people he lost, and also the way he described the funeral that uh, somewhere in Europe, and all the second generations that have attended, all of
Hello, Nermin?
basis. Hello?
There you are. We lost you for a second.
Oh, sorry. No, I was saying that we do it to ourselves as well. We box nationalities and we put labels, and we box religions and we put labels, and we do our own invasions. And even with this social media, this is going to different places. This is crazy, going to different, like it's the magnitude of things that can go south between Arabs or between any different people. We have lack of acceptance to start with. It's another sort of separation and invasion. It's I had two ironic incidents last week when I was reading this book. I was on a walk. One of my friends was taking those challenges and in the desert, and I was with her. And there was this Palestinian lady that I met, and she was telling me that she managed to get her parents with an 80-year-old mother and 90-year-old dad from Ramallah to Egypt. She was telling me the whole story of how they managed to do that, which wasn't an easy thing, and that all the house is destructed. And that the mother, like, for example, in the winter, they wanted to buy her stuff. And she kept saying, no, don't buy me a lot of this because I have loads at home. You don't have to buy this because I have loads at home. Oh my God, how can someone that old would realize that there is no home and that there is nothing there? That was very touchy for me to when you know the details. Yes. Not the ugly politics, not yes. The ugly politics, but just when you know the details of people daily lives or things that they have lost. It's crazy. But at the same time, I had another ironic incident of, apparently there is this thing that's happening on social media between Egyptians and Tunisians, which I have no idea what. One of the things that comes on, and it's fueling everyone because I'm living in Qatar, so I'm surrounded by all nationalities. So, and this my coach, my gym coach is Tunisian, and she came and she's really angry, and she's like, we usually joke, we usually like, and I told her, what's happening? What's wrong? She said, you don't know what's happening, and all those Egyptians are saying those things about. I said, who is those Egyptians saying things? Who are they? And then she kept showing me like TikToks and stuff like that. I'm not on TikTok or this thing. I said, like, what is those people are like, nobody knows them, and these are not, you don't label a whole country based on like 2-3 ladies that are saying stuff on the couch.
What are they saying?
I don't know. Like, apparently there was like this thing passing, qafila coming to Gaza from Tunis, from Maghreb, stuff like that. I think this is what she told me, and then it was stopped by the police, I'm sure, or the army or what have you, because they didn't have the proper licenses or what have you. I don't know, or they didn't allow things to Gaza. So the whole media was really against those people in the ladies and the ladies specifically, the women that are. Why? Because and they started to make like there is a hidden agenda for you to come to Egypt, and you want to do bad stuff, and this is not you're taking Gaza as a front, and and all these idiot, stupid things. But then she believed it. She believed that, and so on. And you keep cutting the cake into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces. Egyptians have issues with Tunisians, Palestinians have issues with Lebanese have.
It's
These are
the basic, it's the basic, divide and conquer since age old, weapon. It's the easiest way. It's the easiest way to get control. Whoever's trying to get control, you divide the people in order to conquer them. Divide them through religion, through ideology, through health, through poverty, through fear, whatever it is. Whatever it is. Anything that can create division. And sadly, humans gobble it up. We gobble it up. We were never created inherently to hate anyone. It's not in our human nature to hate anyone, to mistreat anyone, to be racist against anyone for any reason. It is something that is very, 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 in a very sneaky way done, sometimes not very sneaky, where they infiltrate and they create those divisions very, very, it's insidious when I think about it. Even when you look at the whole issue between Arabs and Jews, we were not born, any of us, hating Jews, and neither were they born hating Arabs. And up until 1948, that didn't exist. But they created this division. They create this division between religions. They create this division between nationalities. And if you just stop and think about every kind of division that there is in the world, it's fabricated. It's not inherent. It's something that was very created for very, very specific purposes, for the gain of whoever is in power. None of it is in our favor. And if we, I think, as humans, just as humanity, don't start to pay attention to this and don't start to wake up to see where they're very, very insidiously planting the seeds of division over and over and over again,
exactly.
it's always going, it's always going to work, and we're always going to be divided, and we're always going to be weak, and we're never, ever going to have peace on any level.
If I
And
may jump in, I'm sorry, Nermeen.
please go ahead.
Thank you. We also heard, we saw that in the news. There were something called the March on Gaza.
Yeah.
And there are some French people also. I think a Frenchman has organized something like this from France with a group, and they went, and apparently they were stopped at the airport in Cairo, and they were sent back. And then they said, yeah, it started somewhere in Algeria, Tunisia, and so on, and they were stopped then in Libya because they did not get the approval from the Egyptian government.
Yeah.
After that, I don't know what happened.
I also, I don't watch the news at all. I also stopped with the Saura. I have no idea. And if it doesn't happen,
Zero credibility.
zero, right?
Zero credibility, zero.
Fabricated, right? So if it doesn't pop up or somebody shares it with me or something, I don't see anything from mainstream media, nothing. But I think what you're referring to, Marianne, yeah, it was in theory this amazing March for Peace, internationally organized. But in Egypt, we're not allowed to march. We're not allowed to protest, even peacefully. So unfortunately, the people who very, very, very well-intentioned international activists, people who wanted to draw attention to the cause, they wanted to, obviously, the only way, I believe, to get to Gaza is through Egypt. I guess they didn't realize that they needed to get permits in Egypt, which they weren't going to get because it doesn't exist, this kind of permit to march. So unfortunately, from my understanding, is that they were refused, and then it became sort of this international issue that Egypt has rejected the activists, the peace activists, the people coming to march for Gaza, and how can Egypt do this, and how can Egypt reject them? And it completely turned around that Egypt is the problem. I mean, yes and no, but if you had done just a little bit of research before organizing this march, you would have known that nobody's allowed to march in Egypt for any reason. And then that might have been avoided. But then again, it just created another reason for people to argue.
And now it's gone.
And now it's gone. Yes. Besma subliminal. It's very real and not even so subliminal anymore, I would say. So now it's just really in your face.
A question, Donna?
Yes.
Have you got champagne cooled up for us?
Have I got some
Champagne? Cold
champagne
champagne? Because it's our last.
celebrate? Unfortunately, I don't. We can pretend. We can pretend. We can
Okay.
toast with some water. But yeah, I don't. But it is our last session together. Definitely, definitely worth a toast for sure. Us having gotten this far. Um, if nobody has anything else to say about the book, then we can wrap up the session today. Anybody else have anything to share about the book? Final thoughts?
Can I just add one more thing? I
Of
know I've been
course.
talking a lot today.
No, of course.
I liked when he also said, when he was saying good things about his family and how kind they were, and then he said, but be careful, it's not always this side only. Everything has another side. And then he was talking about what happened to his mother, and the oppression of his grandmother. So, and then he repeated it in a different context when he was saying that our culture as Arabs in general is to mix joy and or grief with sarcasm. So it's always the two opposites together. We all have the good and the bad
Yeah.
sides, and it's in our culture to joke about anything. So
I also found he just writes so authentically, that even though you're reading about a people who are oppressed, completely oppressed, they are living under, they're living under invasion, they're living under the worst possible conditions. They're still far from being good, all of them being good human beings. Like they still have the liars and the scheming ones and the thieves and the dishonest ones. It somehow you would feel like when you want to talk about people who are oppressed or living in basically what's equivalent of like concentration camps, you want maybe to present them in a way that's going to generate the most sympathy for them, but he doesn't do that. He really shows them as they're just, despite this, they didn't make them better human beings necessarily. They're still flawed. Some of them are more flawed than others, just like any other group of people in the world. So that was something that was really impressed me also, that he didn't also try to paint them as these completely perfect human beings that are being mistreated. No, there's also the good and there's the bad. Very honest interpretation, very honest presentation. Tiny Head,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. Sorry for being late.
No
I
problem.
family dinner today.
We are just wrapping up our conversation about Isa Ramallah. So if you'd like to share your thoughts or reflections on it.
Well, I'm not finished yet, so I'm not gonna. Yani, I'm sorry I missed the part about the book, but I thought I'd join you anyways because I know you said this was gonna be our final meeting, so I just wanted to be with everybody. But I didn't finish reading the book, so I don't have anything to share yet. But I'm enjoying it because I did not ever study the history of Palestine. It's at school, so يعني for me it's very interesting بصراحة.
You didn't have to have finished it. Several of the ladies haven't finished it either, so you can still share if you have thoughts or ideas about it without having finished it.
Yeah, it's just it's sad what they had to go through for me يعني
Okay. Yeah.
yeah and what they are still going through actually. Yeah.
But they're still
Yeah.
going. True.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, what I would like to do today is just to go through and each one of you share with us, out of all the books that we've read in the past 6 months, which one was your favorite? Which is the one that you connected with the most, impacted you the most, and which one was the complete opposite of that? Absolutely hated, didn't connect, would never read it, would never recommend it. So give me two books. One you loved, one you hated.
Not very hard.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I like Clarity and Connection for sure, Siddhartha. The Prophet. I saw Ramallah. I mean, I like them all.
Yeah. Okay. And the which ones did you not like as much or wouldn't read again, didn't really leave an impact on you?
No, I like The Awakening. I wouldn't read it again. I did like it.
Okay.
But I wouldn't read it again. I'm not sure if you're frozen or I'm frozen.
Yeah, I can't tell if it's me or you guys, but I got that. It was a bit delayed, but I got it. Yeah. All right. Who else?
I would like to share. I'm exactly like more or less like Dahlia.
Yeah.
It's for me like the number one book would be Clarity and Connection
Yeah.
and Feminine Genius. I really like that too. I liked also Think and Grow Rich. I would read it again. And Siddhartha and the Prophet, definitely. The Awakening and Tess were not really my favorites, and I don't think I like Dahlia. I would like never go back to them again and say, "Oh, I miss reading this," and let me read it again.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
For me, it was this has become a favorite. I saw Ramallah for sure, as well as the trilogy. A true surprise for me was the trilogy, a favorite. I have to say the one that also surprised me in that how I did not enjoy it was East of Eden. Absolutely did not enjoy that one. That one was the one where I had to force myself to finish it. Could not I could relate to some of the characters and some of the themes, but that was not an enjoyable book for me. Definitely would not go back and reread it.
Okay, I would have to agree with the was Dahlia the first one to speak? iPhone 8 is that Dahlia? Okay, I didn't like The Awakening either. I would never read that again.
Okay.
يعني this old English is not my thing, even though I enjoyed Test of the Ubervilles. I thought that was nice. It was okay. يعني I understood it, but The Awakening for me was so puzzling. I couldn't get into it at all.
Okay.
All the other books were fine. Yeah.
Okay.
For me, it was more or less, I liked all books. I also share as well, I also share what Daria said and also Dina. The Clarity book I loved, and I would go back again and read it, as well as The Prophet. The one which I hated and threw out in the dustbin is the migration to the north.
Okay. Yeah.
I won't. I will not buy it again. And yeah,
It was too violent for you, I remember.
far from. Yeah,
Yeah.
I found it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have also bought the remaining books, and I want to read them in the summer. So in the summer vacation.
Love the plan. Love it.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mhm.
I agree with Marianne as well. First of all, like me?
Sandra?
Yes,
Yes. Were you trying to
if
speak?
you can.
I think mine I was freezing or lagging.
Yes,
Okay, go ahead.
yes. I was just saying that first of all, as a psychist would have never tried any of these books if it weren't for this book club. So I'm so glad I actually gave them a chance.
Yep.
I actually didn't mind the awakening that much, like the rest. I'm happy I read it. The other books that I will not read again. So I'm not gonna say hate because I took actually maybe a paragraph or two from each book. So, but I will not read them again. The Think and Grow Rich and the Feminine Genius, I will not read them again.
Okay.
And like Marianne, what she was saying about Tayyib, the Migration to the North, will
Yeah.
not read it again. Siddhartha, surprisingly, at the beginning, I was like, I'm not gonna finish this book. I'm not gonna read it. I'm gonna put it aside, and it's okay to miss that one. But then I pushed myself to reading it, and I liked it. I took what eventually works for me. So I liked it. What else? Pride and Prejudice. It's my favorite anyway, so
Okay.
that's not new to me.
Yeah.
And the rest of the books, like Marianne was saying, I already have them, so I'm planning to finish them during the summer.
It's always so entertaining, I think, to see which books, everybody's so different. And I said at the beginning of this program, you will not love every single book. You're also not going to hate every single book. But it's always interesting to see who ends up liking which books, and which ones you don't. I did not expect the awakening to get an almost unanimous negative response, I have to say. Definitely not. I knew Clarity and Connection would be a hit for sure. It's hard for it not to be. Think and Grow Rich and Feminine Genius can definitely go either way, so that's expected. Siddhartha, more or less, and like Sandra said, sometimes you just, the point is to give yourself a chance. Like everything else that requires you to get out of your comfort zone, reading different types of books is one of the ways you get out of a comfort zone, right? To expose yourself to the different types of literature, different eras, different time periods, and we covered quite a bit of a different time periods geographically, ideologically. So exposing yourself in that way can bring up, resistance, whether it's language that you're not used to. If it sounds convoluted, you can't understand it, it makes the actual process slower. Whether it's the ideas presented, they trigger you, they go against what you believe, they go against what you've been taught. You sort of have to تعصري على نفسك, زي ليمونة, so you can get through the story. But all of these are ways that you expand your consciousness. It's not going to happen by you reading the same types of books, by the same types of authors written in the same time periods over and over and over again. That expansion only happens when you expose yourself to it. And it is the fact that you have done that in the past 6 months, in whichever, varying degrees of completion, let's say, that you've done it, is an incredible first step to take. Whether you have actually finished all the books or not, you've made it through half of them or not, it's safe to say that in the past 6 months, you've read more than you have in the previous 6 months, right? Even if you haven't finished all the books, you can definitely say with confidence, you have read more and more varied types in the last 6 months than maybe Sandra's an exception, because I know she's a natural reader before that. But in the 6 months prior to this program, how many books did you read? Whether it's literature, whether it's ideology, whether, contemporary, how many books did you read in the 6 months prior to this? So it is about simply opening up the possibility for yourself. And once you start, and it's just like eating, it's just like working out, it's just like everything that is a muscle that needs to be worked out, getting yourself into the habit, either getting back into the habit. I think it's something for most of us, it was something we used to do, got out of the habit, and we're getting back into the habit. Or if it's a new habit, it's literally about getting that muscle worked out every single day. And the more you do it, the more you're going to find yourself. It's easier, whether you dedicate 30 minutes a day. I definitely found myself, sticking to the 30 minutes. By this week, it's easy an hour for me now. And it's every time I find myself going for my phone, I pick up a book instead, because if you have time to scroll, you have time to read. So give yourself a huge toast, Marianne. We can imagine the champagne, right? For taking this step and for wherever you have reached today. Read every single book from cover to cover, read some of them, read half of them. You're still here, which is a huge testament to your, resilience and to your dedication to yourself and your dedication to consistency and your dedication to growth and your dedication to support each other. You have reached today because you have put in the work, however easy it might have been at times, however more challenging it might have been at times. You are not the same today as you were 6 months ago. And if it's just because you read a few books that have made all the difference to you, of course, there are all the other components of the program. But if it's just because you read a few books that changed how you see the world or how you see yourself or how you see others, then you've succeeded. And I definitely am going to toast all of you, appreciate you all for taking me up on my invitation to go through this beta journey together. You hear me say this all the time, but I learned from you 100%, if not the same, then even more than you learned from me. And I get to go through this journey, especially this program. I was on this journey with you. I got to go through and read the books and reinstate this habit for myself. I had to get out of my comfort zone in terms of some of the material that I was coaching on. It is a growth opportunity for everyone. And so I'm always, always, always incredibly appreciative of that. And it's always an incredible honor for me, the ladies who join me on my programs. I do not take it lightly ever that you trust yourself to come into this container and to be with me and to be with these other ladies and to take this journey with me. So as always, huge, huge honor for me and a huge, huge heartfelt thank you to all of you. I will be sharing a final survey of the program so that I can sort of, see how did it actually pan out for all of you? What is it I need to add, change, keep when I run the program again the next round? And then to also see if for you as an existing group, if it's something that we would continue to pursue and in what way we would pursue it, after the summer, if we do that. So I would love for all of you, it's going to be a confidential survey, so I won't know who's answering what, so that you can answer truthfully. I will keep the group open at least until September when I come back after the summer. I know some of you want to still download some materials, maybe as you're reading through the summer, catching up. I won't be available during the summer, but if you all would like to have the group to communicate with each other as you go back and reread or read books you haven't and you want to compare notes, whatever it is. So I will keep the group open until September, because at least until September, I would have made a decision. You know, if we're going to maybe continue for another 6 months just with books, maybe we continue with 6 months with a new list of books and maybe focus on some specific topics to work on. So I'll keep it open until then. All right. Thank you, ladies. Hang on. Besma. Oh, Besma, her books. The Prophet, Clarity and Connection, the Awakening, Feminine Genius, Think and Grow Rich. Can't wait to read the trilogy. Yes, I think the trilogy, once you all get to it, it is definitely going to be a hit. Nermeen, great. The group will be open. Don't get anxious. Don't get anxious. It will be open. And I will be, here, but not here until September, inshallah. So I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful, relaxing summer with your books. This is time to, if you're going to go to the beach, if you're going to go on vacation, whatever it is you're going to do, this is the time to invest even more time in losing yourself in literature. And I just want to say thank you again to all of you for joining me on this journey.
Well, thank you, Dana, for your patience with us and the many questions and and your good heart, accepting us all as we come, each one with her own story and history and that's all.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome.
And also thanks for the ladies who are here, also in the group and so, and for your support and understanding and everything.
Yeah. Thank you to all of you. You're welcome, Emel. Sandra, I'm currently reading When Your Body Says No. If anyone wants to give it a go, it's about the causes of stress in our body. Share it on the group, Sandra, if you want to share, the title, the author, especially if there's people who are watching the replay, so they can also benefit from that. That's why basically I'll keep the group open for you guys throughout the summer. All right, ladies, have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful summer. And inshallah, I will see you all, whether in this group or whether in another group, or we just stay in touch in September, inshallah. All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anna.
Take care.
Hopefully see you in
Everybody.
September.
Yes, inshallah. Thank you, Dana.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.